With June rolling around, sled season is well done for some of us, and it's been done for a long time for a few more of us. So what are we going to talk about today? How to summarize your snowmobiles and how they can just sit there and you don't have to worry about them. You know it's going to fire right up when you go to start it in the fall, because your sled's going to sit now, from June, July, August, September, October. And the summer's really short, isn't it? There's a few tips on what you want to do to make sure that sled's going to be in good condition and you go right back to it when the season comes back. So since my sled is already in its resting place for the summer, I'm going to actually do this whole video without moving the sled. Now, even if your sled's sitting under a cover, chances are it's still gonna get dirty, and that's just part of storing your sled outside. So first thing, what I always do when I'm summarizing my sled, change chain case oil. But since I just did mine since the last ride, not doing it right now. So on these M chain cases, what I prefer to do is actually open the chain case right up. You can just loosen off the tabs and just crack the bottom and drain your chain case fluid if you want. But I like to get in there and actually inspect the case and inspect the gears, inspect the chain, inspect the tensioner, and make sure that everything in your chain case is good to go. So you got more than just new oil. You have peace of mind that knowing everything in your chain case is in good shape, you'll be in good shape for the season. Next thing you want to do, go ahead and throw in some of this stuff. Freaking leaking and everywhere. So what this here is fuel stabilizer, gas tank. Gonna go ahead and throw that in and follow the directions. The next thing you're going to want to do is actually start the sled, because you want that stabilizer to run through and make sure that it's all in your lines and right up to your injectors. So there's actually a couple schools of thoughts on how to store your gas tank over the course of the summer. So a lot of people say that they like to fill it up full, and you know, this does make sense. I get what they're thinking, so that when the fuel in your gas tank, when it's changing temperatures, it doesn't cause any condensation to build up on the inside of the tank. So if say you have a half full tank or a quarter full tank, you have a lot more space on the tank for that condensation to build up, and condensation is just water. So then in the fall, you don't actually end up with any water in your fuel. Even with the stabilizer, which does help out with the quality of the fuel, I still don't like doing it. So what I have here, this is a can of engine preservative. It's otherwise known as engine fog. So what you'll do is you will spray this stuff into the intake, and once the engine stops running, you'll play with the throttle a little bit, and once the engine stops running, that means you're done. The engine is preserved. Now the advantage of using a product like that is that you get the engine preservative into the bottom end of the engine. It makes it into the crank before going through the transfer ports and up to your top end, and it preserves that too. If you don't have engine preservative, or you don't want to go out and buy any, that's okay. I got you. There's another way to do it too. So what you can do is actually take a cap full of your two-stroke oil, and just a cap full, you don't need any more than that. Open up your spark plugs, throw it down into the cylinder of each of your spark plugs, put your spark plug back on, and give it one pull. And that will actually lube up the top end of your engine. You do maybe risk a little bit of plug foulage in the fall. That's why I don't totally like doing this. The other part of it is that none of that oil actually makes it into the bottom end of the engine. But it is something that you can do, and it is something that works. So my spark plugs are in there. There's a spark plug here, and it is very dark. There's a spark plug around back. So all I'll do is spin out those plugs and cap full of oil down into each cylinder, and one pull on her, and that's good. So that's kind of the poor man's way of doing it if you want to do it that way, and that's a total valid way of doing it. It's better than doing nothing. After you've either fogged your engine or ran that extra little bit of oil through your cylinders, that's it. Shut her down. You don't want to be running it anymore, because if you start it back up again, it's going to burn out that fog, or it's going to burn out that extra oil you put in there, and you'll have to do it again. Now at this point, there's going to be people who disagree with me on things, if you haven't disagreed with me on a couple things already. And the point of this is, there's more than one way to summarize your sled, and this is the way I do mine. So after you've ran your engine, now what you're going to want to do is, actually on this M8, there's only a couple little spots where you're going to find this, is all your grease fittings. So mainly on the skid here, there's one there, one there, one there, and there's one there. And that's all the grease fittings that you're actually going to find on most M skids, on most float action skids. Is you're going to want to get all the grease onto those grease points with your grease gun with some good low temperature grease and pump them up so you can feel that resistance and the grease locking up in there, tightening everything up. If your sled has a battery, this sled does not have a battery. It does not have electric start. Sometimes the batteries are located, depends what model it is. Sometimes batteries are located by the chain case, sometimes they're under the seat, and I've even seen them right above the clutches before. If your sled does have a battery, you're probably going to want to unplug it. If not unplug it, then at least put a maintainer on it. Or if you just have a charger, give it a charge every month or something like that. Because you're going to want to keep that battery maintained over the course of the summer, so you know when you put it back in, or you know when you hook it back up that you're going to have power. So what now? Need some help from our old friend WD-40. And at this point, you're going to want to basically give this a shot into anything that's exposed, any moving part that's exposed. Give her a shot of lube. Bam, 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 bam. And of course, don't forget your cable too. Bam. I even like to throw a little bit in my ignition because I've had mine freeze up time to time. A little bit in there. Perfect. And if you have one of these steering post risers, don't be afraid to get in there, pull off the boot, and give it one of them. Give my post bushing a shot while I'm here too. Give that a helping hand, because this post bushing is actually so tough, because it's an upgraded one, is that it actually gets sticky and too stiff and too tight. Here's where people are going to start disagreeing with me if you haven't already. Clutch is next. Pop that out. Look at that. There's a couple of clutches in there. Give yourself some compressed air. Take your air here and give it the old blow out. And you can see these are actually quite dirty. So I just wanted to give them a quick blowout. I'm not going to give them a full clean until the fall. I just wanted to get some of that Kevlar dust out of there because it attracts moisture, and I don't want a bunch of moisture to be sitting around in here right now. As well as I'll show you how to get these burn marks. And you can see there's a couple more burn marks down there at the bottom. I'll show you how to get those burn marks out too. Use a lube that does not attract dirt. So silicone spray, that's what I use. So you can take your belt off. I'm not going to. So that's something that people could yell at me about. That's up to you. If you want to take your belt off, go ahead. I'm not stopping you, but I'm not doing it. So now that you've done all that, your sled, you know, it's looking pretty good. It's looking like it's ready to sit there for a while. There's actually a few more little things that I'm going to do to this one because it's sitting outside, because of where it sits, because of the ground it sits on. And this will just help it out a little bit and help it survive the humid summer. Well, not a lot of humid summer here in Alberta, but it'll help it survive and keep a little bit of that humidity away from it. So if your sled's being stored outside like mine is, you got a critical disadvantage right off the hop, and that is that your snowmobile is exposed to moisture. And it's not just moisture in the air, it's moisture from the ground, evaporating up. It's exposed to the rain, the snow, the hail. So I'm going to help you minimize a couple of those things. First thing we're going to do here is we're going to get these skis off the ground. Now there's also people who like to elevate their track because they're worried that their lugs are actually going to misshapen and misform over the course of the summer and sitting there in one place. That's a myth. Don't worry about that. Your lugs aren't going to misform just sitting there. But I am going to use a piece of wood here to elevate the sled over the course of it sitting here over the summer. We're going to give it a wash and put it away somewhat clean if we can, even though just sitting outside it's going to get dirty. So we've washed up our sled at this point. I'm not worried about particularly detailing it because it's just gonna get dirty just sitting here, even being covered over the summer. So I do want it clean, but I'm not worried about detailing it right now. The dirt isn't gonna hurt nothing. You got a bigger problem than moisture, and you got a bigger problem than dirt, and it's actually UV rays. I actually have the proper Arctic Cat cover for my sled, but I'm not going to be using that cover to store it. I paid something like $280 or something stupid like that for that cover. Now, I don't want that cover to just sit here and get rotten out by the sun. I want to use something cheap. I want to use a couple of $5 tarps I have, or hey, on the Phaser, I actually have one of those cheap tarps that you get from Canadian Tire or whatever. And I use that because I'm not going to let that $200, $300 cover rot, even though it does fit the unit properly. It's for transporting the sled in my eyes. It's not for sitting here over the summer and just letting the sun rot at it, because it does degrade quick. The problem is all of a sudden your cover sat out here for maybe 2 or 3 years. It's getting dry rotted. You go to put it on your sled and it either rips when you put it on when you're first transporting it, or it rips when you go down the highway. So I want to protect it from that too. Cover gets stowed in the shed. It's fine there. We're going to use tarps, cheap $5 tarps. So look at that. That really is a poor man's way of doing it, but hey, it works. It works really good. Now, honestly, I get more concerned about UV more than anything when I'm storing my sled, just because I've seen what it can do, and I've seen how it ages things over time and how it rapidly ages things. Like that bike we got over there in the shop that we've been working on. It's fairly quickly aged because it's been sitting out in the sun for so long, and things are just starting to rot out on it, especially the plastic parts. Hope that video helps you out, guys. It's not a complete guide, but it sure is a good start on what you should do to preserve your sled over the course of the summer. It's at least the minimum of what I think you should be doing. If you like this video or you found this video helpful, stay tuned, subscribe to the channel, smash the like button, hit that stupid bell, do all the stuff, help support us. It's gonna be back to winter and a ton of snow and the cold before you know it, so enjoy it out there. Get out on the bikes, get out on the lakes, do everything you like to do, because summer here in Canada, it's very short-lived. Thanks everybody for watching. See you in the next video.